Hello, konnichiwa. Welcome to another episode of And Now for Something a Little Bit Different, Korean Cool. Back from Comic-Con, and I have to tell you, I am exhausted. But we had to put an episode out, right? John is still dealing with some issues in real life because real life sucks. We all know that. But he'll be back soon enough. Don't worry. What we're going to be talking about today, because it's Halloween week, right? So we got to get ready for the spooks and the ghosts and the monsters and the costumes and the handing out of candy and, keep the candy corn though. No, don't think so. So we're going to talk this episode specifically about, gosh, you have to appreciate when folks go out of their way to try to make an indie film and capture the spirit of a horror with the unintentional, sometimes intentional side effect of making it actual comedy. The movie that we're talking about with this episode is from 2017, One Cut of the Dead. I know. Just thinking about this movie, it brings a smile to my face. And when I rewatched it, more smiles. The basic synopsis is it's a movie about a small indie group that tries to make a horror movie, but unfortunately the movie comes to life. And what you find out later is that the movie itself is a movie about making the movie. And I'll explain a little bit more later, but it's a wonderful horror comedy, more comedy than anything. It is available, believe it or not, on Hulu. If you have a subscription to Shudder, it is on Shudder as well. But I also believe now on Amazon, it's like for $18 for the Steelbook. It's worth the purchase, right? Because it's a neat little film. I appreciate it. I really liked it. Before we get to that, now I know in the previous episode when we were talking about Shorzy season 2, I mentioned how we were going to do Baltimore Comic Con. Baltimore Comic Con was legit amazing this year. Lots of good stuff. The Baltimore Comic Con episode will be coming soon. With that, let's go ahead and talk about One Cut of the Dead. Excuse me for itching my ear because it's itchy. I don't know. Somebody's talking about me somewhere. It's a movie that was an adaptation of a stage play called Ghost in the Box. It was written by Ryoichi Wada. Here's a crazy little fact now. And when I talk about indie films and my appreciation for them, even though it sounds like a large amount of money, wait till you hear the end result. Okay. They spent 3 million yen, which when you convert it over to dollars comes out to roughly $25,000. Okay. Again, it sounds like a lot of money, especially for, an indie film. You don't have a lot of cash on hand. What do you do? This movie kind of set cinema history. Even though there was a budget of $25,000, after worldwide box receipts finally came in, it came in at almost a total draw of $31 million. To simplify it, and for you math geeks out there, that movie, One Cut of the Dead, made 1,000 times its budget. How nuts is that? Talk about a return on investment, right? The genius mind behind this is Shin'ichiro Ueda. He wrote it, he directed it, he also edited this film, One Cut of the Dead. The movie was shot in about 8 weeks. Well, I think it was 8 weeks. It was a short time. However, it took almost like 8 months to put the final cut together of this movie, because again, it's a movie that is about a movie making a movie. I know it's all convoluted, but we'll get there. The great thing about Shin'ichiro Ueda is, again, as an independent film, they eventually had to come to terms with Ryoichi Wada, because again, I think there was, from what I understand, digging into a little bit of history of this movie, there was a little bit of conflict about accreditation, but in the end, they worked things out, and proper accreditation was done. So Yude worked on other movies such as Aesop's Game in 2019, and I think his most recent one is called uh, uh, Angry Squad of Civil Servants versus Seven Swindlers, something like that. Came out in 2024. I have to check it out. Haven't seen it yet, but I got to find a copy. What he pulled off with One Cut of the Dead kind of warrants a watch of his other material. With the cinematography, Tsuyoshi Sone, who was the cinematographer of One Cut of the Dead. It's really fun. Nobuhiro Suzuki and, excuse me, Kailu Nagai did the music. Now, it's not like a full blown orchestral affair, deep in music. It's fun, it is fitting, and it goes with the flow of the movie. Yude, in kind of the background, more background of the movie, went to a drama school in Japan, Tokyo, I believe, and that's where he found a lot of, I guess you could say, stage assistants and actors. So, again, as an indie film, when it came out, it was virtually unknowns, in front of the camera. The cast, when you look at some aspects of this film, you will kind of understand where this next sentence came from. Now, I believe there was an interview where Yude was talking about the making of this movie. And while he said it was fun, it was exhausting. And I guess when you were trying to put a movie together called One Cut of Anything, implying that, this is intended to be a one cut film. It's not like Extraction. I don't know if any of you have seen that yet. With Chris Hemsworth, there's actually a car chase scene. 13 minutes, that's literally done in one take, but that was 13 minutes. But going back to Yude, what he was saying is why it was exhausting is that sometimes they had to do reshoots, another take, or there was a chase sequence that took about 37 minutes, but they had to do 6 takes. Took 6 takes, 37 minutes apiece. I guess that's kind of exhausting. Again, he took 4 months to edit it, and the success of the film, the success of an indie film for only 25K, you're bringing in almost $31 million. I believe it was 2021. There was a French remake of it called The Final Cut. Let's go to this cast. Again, virtual unknowns. You will forgive me because I will be referring to some notes because there are a lot of names that need to be mentioned. They deserve the credit. The cast of this movie starts with, Takayuki Hamatsu, who plays Director Higurashi. Yuzuki Akiyama plays Chinatsu, and she's like the final girl in this movie. Hirumi Shuhama plays Nao. I apologize if I mispronounced your name if you're watching. She plays Nao, Nao. He's just... She's probably one of my favorite characters in a horror comedy. Kazuke Nagaya plays Ko. He is an actor. He is actually a student of the art of filmmaking. He is an actor. When the zombies come knocking, yeah, it's every man for himself. It's crazy. Manuba Hasoi plays a character called Manoba Hosada. I call him the Wushu zombie, and I'll explain that a little bit later. Okay, Hiroshi Ichihara plays a character called Kasahara. He is, man. There's a scene. It's just, I'll get to it, but wow, it's like, oh man. Ugh. Mao is playing the character of Mao. what we learn is director Higurashi Now and Mao are actually a family, but Mao is that child who loves the aspect of entertainment in the sense of behind the scenes directing, script work, camera work. She's a quick thinker. When you're making an indie film, she is definitely one of those folks you want to have around, right? Quick on their feet, rapid to respond to whatever situation comes up at that time. Lastly, we're going to talk about Shunitaro Yamazaki. He plays a character. He's another one in the movie. He plays cast and crew in the movie that they're making a movie about. Okay, so we talked about the crew, we talked about the cast. Now that we're talking about this movie, let's give some brief synopsis to each part of this movie. So the movie opens up and we see Chinatsu being, I want to say attacked, but it's not attacked. She's being approached by a zombified Ko. And it plays out. There's some awkward pauses. And then, she eventually says, as Ko bites her neck, I love you. Then director Higurashi comes in and just like waylays into her, like, I need more emotion. I need more reality. I need more from you, to the point where she cries, right? You have tears coming down. You kind of feel bad for her. Some of the cast, they take 5, take 10, whatever it is. Ko, Chinatsu, and Now start talking a little bit and, try to make small talk. But it's awkward, right? I'm sure you've been in those situations where, you're trying to do something, you're trying to put together something, and you make the small talk, but there's like several awkward silent moments between the small talk. It's totally fun up to the point where they ask Now, ask a little bit about her, to which she says, oh, well, I've been studying martial arts. And they're like, really? Can you show us a little bit? And she starts demonstrating. She's like, okay, now grab me from behind. I'm going to show you what you do. So Ko grabs her from behind. Then all of a sudden, Now goes, boom, raises her arms, breaks the hold, and Ko and Chinatsu are like super impressed. Like it's like they just saw Jackie Chan in person demonstrate a simple like 1-inch punch or something. It was crazy, hilarious. There's some noise at the door, and then when they go to investigate, they open the door to kind of like see what's going on. All of a sudden, this arm comes flying in the door. Right before the arm comes flying in the door, we see Kasahara, out there trying to smoke a cigarette, and a zombie comes up and attacks him. Okay, so the arm comes in, and then they start freaking out, and then Kasahara comes in and starts attacking him, starts going right after Chinatsu again, final girl moment. And then the director Higurashi sees what's going on, and he's like, oh man, this is great. This is exactly what we needed. This is exactly what I wanted. And he's filming and he's filming, and they're going around, they're chasing. They finally, get Kasahara out. And then, the director's like, what is going on? What's going on? And then he's like, why did you stop? And he goes out the door to go, figure out, what the hell's going on, where else he can get footage. And then, it's back to Ko now and Chinatsu. And then they hear another noise from like the opposite end, right? The whole movie is shot in like this abandoned water facility somewhere in Japan. So it kind of makes like, dirty, grimy. It makes kind of a good atmospheric shot. So they go to this other door. Higurashi he's something else, because they open the door, and next you know, there's another zombie right there at the door, but it's being held by director Higurashi, who pushes the zombie towards them, and he just yells, "Action!" This guy's going nuts with it. Of course, as normal things would happen, right? They escape the zombie, they try to find a vehicle, They get into the vehicle, but there's no keys. They're arguing where are the keys, trying to figure it out. Kasahara comes back. He's banging on the car doors, like, oh, I think it's in his bag. And next thing you know, the car van's door opens up, and it's Director Hagarashi again. It's like a running joke throughout the movie, but it's great because wow, it's again, you're trying to take advantage of the moment, and he's just his adrenaline's pumping, he's excited about what's going on. It's what he was there for, right? To get this type of action shot. So the movie continues on. There's more chasing, more zombie evading. There's a long awkward scene where it looks like the camera got knocked down and it's laying on the ground. It's filming, and all they're doing is like just running around the little ground area that's in frame, fighting the zombies until it picks back up. Chinatsu runs further into like this little field. She runs into a tunnel with the Kasahara. She gets to the other side, and then from the other side, just before she escapes, of course, it's the wushu zombie. And I say it because, zombies is more like, right? No, this guy goes, he's just making these exaggerated movements. It's nuts. She escapes. She runs back into Ko, and now didn't know where she was because of course in movie terms they were off screen, so she didn't know what was going on. She thinks that one of the zombies got her and she was going to be turning, so she decides to go after Chinatsu. Everything eventually culminates with them ending up on the roof of this water treatment facility. We come to find out is when Chinatsu finally makes it up there, she sees Ko and Now there. Only Now has an axe in her head, and Ko is just staring off, into the distance. So obviously Ko had to do what he had to do because Now was trying to kill Chinatsu. But as Chinatsu approaches Ko, it's revealed Ko himself has turned into a zombie. So she runs away, but she finds an axe and she comes back to confront him. There's an awkward scene where it kind of replays from the start of the movie where Ko's approaching her and then she says stop, and he just pauses, like it's like, but then he starts lumbering towards her again, and then she says it again. It's the second pause. What the hell's going on here? And then finally he gets close enough, she ends up beheading him. And then all of a sudden, Director Hagarashi comes out of nowhere and he's like, what are you doing? You went off the script. You're ruining it. He's filming this whole thing, not giving her any help whatsoever. Pisses her off. She starts chasing him with the axe. Next thing you know, he stumbles off an edge, and next thing you know, you see her lifting the axe and she dispenses her version of justice. And as she, finishes that task, that dastardly deed, we see that she kind of like, I guess you could say it's like a shock haze that she's like walking, like, I just can't believe that happened to me. And then, you see kind of like a crane shot or whatever. It's like the camera's lifting up off of here, but still zooming down on her. And what's revealed is that on the top of this water facility, she's now standing dead center of this, like, looks like blood drawn pentagram. And that's the end of that movie. And then the second part of the movie kicks in. So what we find is that here come the intro credits for this movie, and here are all the actors, and we're like, what the hell's just happened? Well, what's revealed is that Director Hagarashi was actually hired to produce a live event, a live zombie show event that was to be done in one cut. He starts laughing at, the two producers who approach him on it, and he's like, what are you talking? It can't be done. But they convince him to do it. The next like 10, 15-minute. It's great because, again, filmmaking, if you're a student, a fan of, or curious, they kind of show a lot of the behind the scenes work, right? Of course, talking, finding the director, then finding assistants, then, the script, handing out the script, getting your actors, doing a script reading. A lot of that behind the scenes happens like on camera, and it is in this whole like span of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that again, the relationship between director Hagarashi, Now, and Mao is revealed, that they're husband, wife, and daughter. Director Hagarashi, Now, we're not supposed to be in the first part, right? They were not supposed to be in the movie, but because of a car accident, like their two primary actors weren't going to make it on time. So they had to adapt and improvise, right? Indie filmmaking, run and gun, guerrilla filmmaking. They had to do it. Well, you just saw the first part, right? Which was the zombie movie. Now you're watching them film and how they made the zombie movie. So it's really fascinating. And again, this is where it takes you out. It's like, oh my gosh, they're making a movie about making a movie about a zombie movie. It's crazy, but it works, and you get to see, again, a lot of the way they film the shots, a lot of the way, what you end up realizing, or they end up explaining and doing, is a lot of that stuff was improvisation. Case in point, Chinatsu, when she's telling Ko to stop and he pauses, it's because there's somebody, off camera, pointing at a sign that says delay, delay, or axe surprised, go find an axe. So there's just moments where in the movie, again, it looks like the zombie is attacking, but she has some kind of connection, but in reality, it's them improvising to overcome and adapt to our current situation. It's fantastic. The comedy in the first half still translates into the making of portion, right? When they go through it, because again, going back to one of the producers, when you try to like initially think and you hear about how they're going to make a live one cut action or zombie show that's supposed to last for 30 some odd minutes for Japanese TV, you will have to watch it to understand why I'm giggling, because number one, the visuals of the producer who was spouting these lines and basically saying, it's going to be great. We got zombies and panico, panico, panico. It's, panic, panic, panic. It's hilarious. But going again back to them filming the movie of them filming the zombie show, I talked about, again, there's a scene where the camera looks like it got knocked down, and they're just running around in the circle, like, just in frame. Well, it's because you see, as they're making the movie, the guy who was filming him trying to chase him, like, slips and falls, and the reason why he can't get up is because there's somebody else behind him shooting like B-roll footage or something like that. So he would have been in the shot if he stood immediately back up. So he had to wait for them to run off camera so he can get back up and continue the chase. The camera handoffs, as part of that, again, indie running gun guerrilla filmmaking. One poor assistant, she's like, running to pass off a camera, and as she passes off the camera, she like face plants into the ground. It's like, oh my God, oh, that's a rough landing. And what you find, again, is because there's a lot of improv, is, again, because of situations. Remember I talked about the wushu zombie? Well, the actor, he likes his sake. He likes to calm his nerves with the liquid courage, if you get what I'm saying. So he's not doing all those crazy movements because he's trying to act like a zombie. It's because he's drunk. He was drunk on the film. So in the original movie where Kasahara is trying to grab a smoke, he's the zombie that comes up right on him. But what you see is the movements and the way he shambles and the way he like throws his head on Kasahara's shoulder. It's because director Hagarashi was trying to sober him up and wake him up because he's drunk. He's literally like out of frame, holding him up, trying to push. It's great. It's hilarious. improvisation, running gun, guerrilla filmmaking, right? What the scenes on the rooftop, what you come to find out, because it didn't make sense when you watch the zombie, the first half. They had to get Chinatsu off the roof because what had happened was there was an accident and the camera jib, with the crane that holds the camera up, does the crane shots, um, got knocked off the roof and it was destroyed. And that was like the penultimate shot. That's the end shot, right? She's supposed to stand in this pentagram. We're supposed to go take an aerial view down and show her standing in this pentagram. What do we do? And that's where Mao in this movie is brilliant, because they cut to her in that scene. They're in the studio van or lot. Like, what do we do? What do we do? And she comes and she's like, "How many free people do we have?" So when Shinatsu finally goes back up there, now she tries to jump back into frame, but while they're shooting another section, and then director Hagarashi is trying to calm his wife down. He grabs her and she immediately, boom. Mao tries to grab her, boom. They both try to grab her. She pins her arm, but she's still going, boom. They finally get her out of frame. And what you see in the brilliance, and again, this is, these are the type of folks you want working with you, those who can think on their feet real quick. Mao asked how many free people they had, because her plan was to build a human pyramid, pass the camera up, and then for them to hold up. And they pulled it off with director Hagarashi, being like the base, with Mao being the actual jib, holding the camera up high, pointing it down, and they get the shot. But then you realize, because again, when you see the original, you're like, man, this is a long shot. Why are they still doing it? And again, with the second half, you realize, oh, that's right, it's a live TV shot. So they had to stay in this human pyramid. They're like, 15 more seconds to go, and everyone's like, can't hold it, I can't hold it. And they pulled it off. The show is a success. It is, gosh, there's only one word I can say for it, right? Fun, in the sense of, man, that movie must have been fun to make, put together, and just be a part of, because everything that you see it's thinking on your feet. Again, if you love the theory and theorems of filmmaking and what you can, should, or would do, it all kind of comes into play. The first half of the movie, again, it's funny because it's a zombie, but there's just lots of stuff going on. But there's so much you like question, like, we've been watching her scream for 2 to 3 minutes. What's going on? But the second part of the movie explains why they had to show her on camera screaming for 2 to 3 minutes. They're like, keep it going, keep it going. Because before they could go to the next shot, they had to put this fake axe in Nao's head with the fake blood. But, they're trying to rush and get it done. And that's why it was there. So what was annoying in the first half is like, oh my God, that now I understand is hilarious in the second part. So I talked about, the premise of the movie. And again, I apologize for the shortness, probably the rapid pace that I took. Again, just exhausted from this past weekend stuff. But, let me give you some thoughts on this, right? The first time I watched this was with my buddy Troy. His family, our families, we were getting together, and he was like, "Hey, I got this movie. We should watch it." And we're like, "What movie?" He's like, "One Cut of the Dead." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, throw it on. Let's check it out." And we're all watching this movie. And in the first half, there's definitely the laughs, especially the boom. It's kind of like a running joke. Not only in the movie, but as we were hanging out and having fun later. That's every time we talk mid sentence, we just boom. But the first half, there was a lot of questions, right? Like, the wives were like, why aren't they, what's going on? I don't understand. Why are they? And then the second half of the movie starts, and then almost everyone had that collective, oh, okay, okay. This is neat. 'Cause I was getting ready to say, what? We watched the second half, laughing just as we did in the first half. we were talking about just how great it was, right? In terms of, again, being, a run and gun, guerrilla filmmaking, indie film, that we had to like start digging up, and we're like starting to pull up some facts like, oh my God, it only cost 25 grand to make. What? The scenes, the way they pulled off shots, and how it was just like the giddiness of seeing how they put this film together, this film of making a film about a zombie movie. It was so much fun. That I would have to say that, I hope you will get a chance, or give it a chance if you haven't already seen it. There's a lot more to say. But again, I don't want to drag this out, because again, the first half of the film, it is actually a short, movie. The second half is just as long, so both together make one whole movie. And again, it's a zombie film, but I don't want to talk about the rehash of everything else that everyone would normally talk about. Going into Halloween, just had to talk about this movie because scary things, horror, comedy horror, and just having fun. And again, going back to One Cut of the Dead, I found the movie fun to watch, and just being a little bit envious on how fun it must have been. That all said, there's a couple other podcasts that you, well, listen and watch. Well, here we go. All right, first up, Not a Bomb podcast with Troy and Brad. My buddy Troy, he was hanging out with me in Baltimore at the Baltimore Comic Con. It was absolute blast. I'll dive more into that when I finally get that episode done. Special note: they're going to be releasing an episode on Halloween with a very special guest. You need to listen to it. Troy was we're driving to Baltimore Comic Con. He's explaining a little bit, not everything, but he's just giving me a teaser of what's happening. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Can I get a preview? No. So, Not a Bomb podcast. Check them out, especially on Halloween. They're dropping an episode. Gotta listen. Our buddies over at Watch Skip Plus, Jose and Mike, Samurai over at Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema, Caliber 9 from Outer Space, Raiders of the Podcast, and Death by DVD. Special shout out to Night of the Living podcast, one of the oldest, if not the oldest, horror podcast out there. And again, mentioning that one because Andy, who's been on Night of the Living podcast, he's coming out for our event this coming weekend at the Alamo Draft House in DC for the Dismember the Alamo movie event. Don't know what's going to be playing, but we're going to make fun of it. We'll probably make fun of it, but we're going to make fun of the time we're hanging out together. And also, we're going to be dragging Troy to a haunted trail. I hope I can get footage of that. Please stay tuned as I, continue to work through this exhaustion to get the Baltimore Comic Con episode up, with some like commentary and video of the whole thing, and some real nice goodies that we probably spent way too much money on. There's some good stories. I can't wait to share them. In the meantime, please, especially with Halloween weekend, be safe. Keep safety in mind. Lots of kids are going to be out trick-or-treating. Stay safe yourselves. And hopefully, please like, share, subscribe. Definitely appreciate it. You just really don't understand how giddy we are when we see folks actually taking the time to stop by and visit us. But again, stay safe. Have a happy Halloween, and we'll see you next time.